Yes, ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. There was a spin-off sitcom, The Wasp and the Homosexual. I don't know if it was very popular in the 70s. You could literally just have the homosexual. They had auditions. People came in. I'm reading for the homosexual. Okay, that was really good. Could you just go study The Alcoholic and come back in? 'Cause that was good. I want to see what else you can read. That was The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, referenced by the Beastie Boys, of course, in one of their songs. God, okay, so much about that movie. That's clear that Quentin Tarantino has said that's where he got the color names for Reservoir Dogs. I forgot it's Doris Roberts as the mayor's wife. The mayor. I don't know if the sound was a little weird. There was all that debate back and forth about is the undercover cop a man or a woman, and when Walter Matthau leans down, he says, "We'll have an ambulance here. Everything will be okay, miss," because all he sees is the long hair. So he just assumed that it was a chick. He's like, "Oh, it's okay, miss." Just again, there would be this movie. If this movie was released today, there would be 1,000 think pieces on Salon and Slate and Jezebel about every single casual thing that they just throw away in this movie. Our hero, kind of a dick, kind of racist, a little racist. I don't know if you caught that. A little slow moving. But it was a great kind of cross section of that's what was on the subways in the 70s. And New York looked more cleaned up in Escape from New York than it did in this movie. I don't know if anyone has ever compared the two. I didn't see the remake just because a friend of mine saw it right beforehand, and he pointed out, and there's no reason for me to see it because he said that what sucks about the remake is there is no way to make Denzel Washington appear incompetent on screen. And they try to front, I don't know, has anyone seen the remake with Denzel Washington and John Travolta in the Robert Shaw role? Apparently, they have Denzel Washington in a shirt that kind of doesn't fit him, and he spills coffee on himself. But my friend said, you watch me and go, well, it's Denzel. He just sweats authority. There's no, you watch him and go, yeah, he's going to fix everything. He'll go down, and then my friend pointed out, it should have been Denzel as the head hijacker. Totally together, and then someone like a Paul Giamatti in the Walter Matthau role, really, because that's what added the tension. You're like, I don't see how Matthau's going to beat Shaw. Shaw is so much smarter than him in this film. This was one of the earliest. I don't know if anyone is around. No, why would I say is anyone my age here at a college? Anyone here 45 years old? But when I was growing up, this movie, along with The Mechanic and The Dirty Dozen and The Longest Yard, seemed to be on every Sunday on TV. So I would repeatedly watch this and notice little hidden things, and that's how they did that. So even when I was 9, before I knew I wanted to get into film, I was getting a free film course on my local TV. God, what else can I tell you about this movie? One of the best soundtracks I've ever. They don't do sound where the soundtrack is almost announcing itself, I'm the soundtrack. It just totally obliterates anything around it. So this is me. I'm getting credit. A good soundtrack is supposed to blend into the scene, and the soundtrack here, everything else in New York, is loud and obtrusive and rude. You're almost, after a while, you're kind of hoping to get back down in the tunnel with the because at least it's quiet. Everywhere else in the city is just awful and ugh. So if there's any questions or anything, I'll talk for 10 to 15 minutes, and I'm going to go to sleep because I'm an old man and I have been up since 5 a.m. traveling. If anyone has any, are we going to put a mic right there? Very nice. So had any of you heard about the famous twist at the end of this? Or no? Was it a genuine surprise when that happened? Pretty good? Yeah? I also like how all the hijackers were basically dressed the way that everyone in Brooklyn dresses now. It was like the subway was hijacked by Brooklyn hipsters. That was their disguise. Like nowadays, if you take the subway out to Williamsburg, that's how everyone is dressed. Big glasses, ironic mustache, you know, thrift store coat. I'm amazed that people don't carry machine guns around just because I love that movie. So, anyone want any questions or? This is the worst film discussion. Normally, if this had been Ebert, he would have been going over like every frame and showing you all kinds of angles, and I'm just like going, wasn't that fucking great? Yeah. Whee! It's like watching a movie with an excited wino. Oh my God, someone, hi. Thank you for being the first, by the way. You're going to loosen everyone else up, and then there'll be a little line behind you.
I'm old enough that I saw this in the theater in this town when it first came out. And
in the 70s?
Yes. And I liked.
Oh, a little closer?
I don't know. Is this working? Hi there.
Yeah. Start again, please. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Just recently, Turner Classic Movies had the Super Cops on, which I also saw at the time. I tried to watch it. It's just so dated. You can't look at it anymore. This is not dated at all. This is a masterpiece. And what I like is the people in the background are always doing little things that make sense, that somebody put real thought into.
Yeah, and they also, you know what I like about this? This was that time in movies where the costume designers thought about, okay, what does a transit cop make? What can they afford to wear? So everyone is dressed in their price range. They are dressed in the clothes they could afford to wear, and it looks that much more realistic. Now, it's all, even if you see movies now, even when people are wearing, actually on television is now going the way of 70s films. If you watch shows like The Middle and True Detective, they really put thought into what people can afford to wear. And in now, everything has to be tailored and cut. Like, halfway through the movie, Mathau's got his jacket off, his shirt's kind of half hanging out, it's off the rack, it has not been cut to fit him, nothing looks, you know, everything was, they were so much more real in this. Say that again? I know that big, thick yellow tie, it's not tied very well. Like, he clearly I'll tie my tie. Like, this is how Garber would tie his tie. He'd tie it like Walter Matthau, so.
You made a comment about Walter Matthau told Jerry Stiller, it's okay to say whatever you want. How in charge was Matthau of this? Because the director didn't do that many other really good things.
Yeah, I know. I think at the time, Matthau was so hot, and this was a really popular bestseller at the time, that to get him attached, I think that must have been a coup. So I would imagine he had a lot of say in, okay, we'll do this. And because I also, from what I understand from Jerry, a lot of the actors that you see were Mathau's like New York acting friends in different roles. So it was all people he was comfortable with. And as you saw, I love how the one cop, Kenneth McMillan, Baron Harkonnen, is running the money drop. If no Dune nerds? Okay, that's fine. But yeah. Well, thank you. Wow, you saw this in the theater.
Yes.
Nice.
Actually, I probably saw it at the Virginia Theater where you're going to be showing the next day or two. So.
Oh, nice. Big, blown up, huge.
Thank you for bringing this. It was a great choice.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming out and watching. I appreciate it, man. Yeah. Oh, by the way, in San Francisco, when this film was shown, when it first opened, I don't know if this probably didn't happen to you at the Virginia Theater, sir, but this is also notorious for, they did a sneak preview afterward. They asked people if you want to stay, and the movie that they previewed was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Got its first showing, and people walked out and were screaming at the theater manager and demanding their money back. They were all terrified. It was one of the dumbest rollouts of a movie ever. Like, you see this, and this is a pretty dark film, but things work out. And then they came out and said, if anyone wants to stay, we have a new movie we'd like to, preview and get your comments on. And it was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So there's just people on a date. All right, so another little bit of trivia about this. Okay, yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Mike, and I do a little bit of writing for Roger's site. And I just wanted to contribute by saying that I saw the remake of Pelham 1, 2, 3, and I enjoyed it, but it's nowhere close to this. And the mark of a great suspense, like you mentioned, it's not just a great action film, it's a great suspense film. The mark of great suspense films for me is the use of silence.
Yes.
And the way the film uses silence is so brilliant. I mean, if you watch the remake, it's not like it overdoes it, but there's always some score that's being playing up the suspense in some way. But in the most suspenseful moments, it's absolute silence, and not many directors know how to use that anymore. So it was great that you mentioned the suspense portion of that.
Yeah, and I like how when the times when the action started, the characters are never ready for it to start happening. It's not this. It is sloppy, and everyone's terrified, and it makes the action. And then when the action is done, you're still kind of shaking from it. But it's not constant action. After a while, you just get numb and go, I don't care. So this was like, please God, nothing happened. I would be happy if everything. But of course, it all starts coming apart. So wow, thanks, man.
And one last thing.
Yeah.
There was this picture book about world film locations about New York, how it's a great film location city. And I contributed about the French Connection. And I wish I had seen this because I would have loved to write this. I mean, it's one of those films about New York City where you can really capture the character of the city.
Yeah.
Just like the French Connection. I mean, that was when I see the French Connection. I mean, I immediately think New York City everywhere.
Yeah.
But when I saw this, it's another great film which shows the character of the city.
It's an amazing documentary. They caught it. They caught something in time before it got even creepier, and then it got cleaned up. So this is 3 years before Taxi Driver, so it's about to get even worse. So thank you. Thanks, man. Hello.
Hey, I'm Robel. And I noticed in the film, in this one, they had like some commentary on like racism. Like when
really?
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little
Dude,
bit.
it was so much. What I love is it's commentary and they don't realize they're making it.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like life.
Yeah.
Like when I'm guessing the pimp got hit in the face and he was like, nigga, or something like that. I was wondering in the remake if they were that blatant or if they even like touched on any racism.
Now I feel like I gotta see the remake, but again, back then there were topics that you were still, clearly there was a long way to go in terms of recognizing other people as humans, as in the homosexual as a credit, but because it was almost, in a weird way, because there was still that insensitivity, you could comment on the insensitivity because it was still out there.
Yeah.
And so in a weird way, because there's still what's creepy now is that a lot of the racism and homophobia has found ways to camouflage itself. Yeah. So like you saw with Colbert, where he was trying to bring it out to the light, he's the guy getting accused of the racism, where he's trying to go, no, this creepy dude is trying to hide it, and I'm trying to raise it up, and they're like, you. So it's this. I'm not saying things were better back then, but I'm saying for pointing out, like, do you see how awful this is? Yeah. Like, it was a little more in your face, and you could kind of, point it out. So, does anyone know what the one line I've never gotten was when, or is he just making a joke at Robert Shaw when he goes, "What's the matter? Haven't you ever seen the sunset before?" Is he just, is that slang for something, or is he just saying, "I'm just so awesome. Why are you that dumb?"
I thought he was dressed like a sunset. Like I thought he looked like a sunset. Like he looked like it. Like that's what I was. Didn't he? He was wearing orange with like the orange on top.
I
and then
guess. I mean, there was the
like
brownish. So he was dressed as a.
Yeah,
like in
as
his
the
mind.
Sunset. Yeah, in my
he looks
mind.
like a sunset.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
All right.
Although,
no, I mean, like,
you know what? I will say, New York was so dirty and dingy that he was the most colorful thing on that platform. By default, he was a delightful sunset. Yeah. He was like the most put together guy in the movie. So, okay, cool, yeah. Yeah, there was a lot. I mean, again, the fact that you could get away with a hero that is just so casually racist to both the Japanese transit authorities, and then when he meets the cop, and he's like, "I thought you were," yeah, forget it, and he just gets like, what the hell? And I love how the cop reacts like, "I get this all the time from these idiots. I don't even care. Let's just go catch these guys." So, yeah, it's fantastic.
Cool. All right.
Well,
Thank
thanks,
you.
man.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Kyle. I'm trying not to
Hi, Kyle.
hit myself in the face with the mic. So what stuck out to me was the only people in the movie that don't seem like they're from New York are the main bad guy and the Japanese people.
Right.
So was there anything going on at the time? Like, so the main bad guy is a British guy who had some sort of African paramilitary connection that they kind of, I think I heard them say something about.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Do you know if that was connected to anything in people's minds at the time, or if that was just making the rounds of movie tropes?
I don't know. I wish I mean, I love the early 70s because America was just kind of coming apart, but I don't know enough. Maybe a lot of you know more about, was there something in the zeitgeist about, I know there was a lot of mercenary misadventures going on in certain of the countries in Africa, and that was all, there was awareness was coming. So they just, at the time, all these movies, it's whatever is the zeitgeist at the time is the villain. So if you watch Die Hard, the villains are the Euro trash, as they call them, but then also the sleazy 80s Gordon Gekko guy, Ellis, the coke snorting guy that almost gets everyone killed. So they always pick who is the zeitgeist for the villain. So for all I know, in the early 70s, crossword playing British mercenaries were in the zeitgeist somehow. I don't know, but yeah, that's a good question. Dang, I don't know that now. I'm the worst film buff on the planet. Okay, thank you. Hi. How you doing?
Hi, I'm Thomas.
Hey.
First of all, I want to thank you for showing this movie. I loved it as a kid. I think partially because it was the first movie I ever saw that had the F word in it. But
yeah.
The more I watched it, the better it got. I think you should watch the remake. It's not nearly as cerebral or clever as this one, but it's a lot of fun. It's a good action movie.
Yeah, it's a great idea for a film. So.
I do want to say I really appreciate what you said about the incompetence. I think we need more incompetent leading characters in movies nowadays.
Well, yeah, we need. Well, I'm not even saying like total screw-ups, but it would be interesting to have your lead. See, that's what. Okay, to bring up Die Hard again, there's this weird arc where the first Die Hard, he's fallible. He can make horrible judgment calls and get things wrong. And if you saw the last one, he's basicall just Superman now. Like there's no he doesn't do anything wrong. He can suddenly fly helicopters and do parkour or whatever. Like it's just, I almost said parquet, but yeah, it's some guys that are kind of like a little. In the first one, he would get out of breath when he was running around. Like I like that. It adds to the tension of, are they teasing us with a guy that might not pull this off? Like I like that. So yes, more fallible heroes, more incompetence. More incompetence.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, and you will be our last one. So that I love the smattering. Yeah, more incompetence. Like, is he asking us to applaud for that? Yes.
Mine was more of a commentary about, in kind of expounding upon what you guys were just saying, was the scene where the train was about to, like, you didn't know if it was going to crash or not.
Yeah.
And when the people were falling all over. That was terrifying to me, and I don't think any of the modern like superhero movies or any of these things with Michael Bay, like none of that stuff bothers me at all. I never think anyone's gonna die or get hurt, but in this, it's like, and I felt like my heart in my throat.
Yeah, or if it's weird you bring up Superman, what's kind of weird about the movie is I've never been that numbed to what is clearly thousands of people being killed.
Yeah.
Like there's no way that people aren't being just decimated in those buildings that are collapsing. And it's creepy that they make you desensitize that, where you're just like, eh. Or at the beginning of 2012, where you're watching the entire West Coast just dying. And you're going, oh, that's good CGI. That's pretty, they got that really good. And yeah, you're right, they've got 17 people that they take time for you to get to know. And even though they're the WASP, the alcoholic, the homosexual, the hooker, but you sort of, but by the way, hang on, wait a minute. If you rode the subway in the 70s, or even if you ride it now, that is how you classify people in your trains. You're almost not dehumanizing, you're just going, well, you clearly see what that dude's doing, you see what her deal is. But if you were to spend an hour with them, with Robert Shaw and a machine gun, you would get to know them, and you would worry about them. They're all worrying about each other at the end. It's kind of nice. You know, the old Jewish guy is giving the pimp a little, here, your lip, that's terrible. You know, like they're all starting to help each other. So, yeah, there's something kind of, you're right. I cared about every single one of those guys.
And the camera angle, too, being so down low, you felt like you were falling around in the middle of the subway car too.
Yeah.
So that was.
And you realize how terrifying that is. Now, multiply that a million times, which is that was going on in 2012 or the end of Man of Steel. But you multiply it so big that you just go, I don't know.
Can't brain it.
There's literally a scene at the beginning of 2012 when they're escaping the city, and a subway car goes screaming down into a chasm full of people, all CGI, and you just go, oh, that's kind of arcs. That's nice. So yeah, you're right. Wow, we've taken a terrible turn. So, you know what? Two more. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask or maybe comment on the idea of hijackings and how common they seem to be. Not necessarily of trains, but planes, maybe back in the 70s. Because there were a couple of offhand comments. Like one guy was like, well, we might as well just hijack it and take it to Cuba. Or he's going to take it to Cuba.
I think that wasn't there a lot going on back in the 70s? There was a lot of hijackings. And it was, but it was literally just to take the plane someplace and then get off.
Yeah.
It wasn't even, there was no other statement than like, I just really want to go someplace.
Yeah.
And then I'll just get off. I'll be fine. So.
Yeah, because I guess the reason I brought it up kind of is I saw, well, there's this recent controversy about the bomb threats that this teenager in somewhere in Europe was making to American Airlines in the past week or two. And someone
Was this the girl on Twitter?
Yeah, the Twitter.
Yeah.
The bomb threat. And I saw some commentary about that was like, well, kids these days, they've never even like thought of hijackings as being like a serious thing or a common thing at all, and so they just sort of make these offhand comments, not thinking about it. But back then, I guess it seemed to be more of a joke, because it was common enough that people sort of saw it.
There was so much of it that if you ever watch another great movie about how awful New York was in the 70s is The Out of Towners, which ends on a wacky hijacking joke, and it was just, and audiences went, oh, that's great, they're hijacked now. So, yeah, I guess that was just a common little thing you throw in your movies as a little bit of spice, little hijacking, little hijacking spice. Thanks. And we end with you. Yes.
Hi, I'm John. I just had a quick question for you. It's the same scene that the lady before us just talked about, where they're on the passengers are on the train. They don't know if it's going to crash, what's going to happen. There's the one hippie-ish looking woman kind of humming and meditating. Yeah. I think somebody was praying. The one guy being reasonable. There's got to be a red light. What would be your reaction at that time? What would you be saying? What would you be doing?
Oh, that's a good. Whenever I'm in this is weird, and this is not a brag either. I think it has something to do with how terrified I get. But when I'm in really super high stress situations, I get weirdly calm, only because the way adrenaline affects me as a paralysis. So I almost think I would be I'd be standing up, but I'd be standing like hanging on one of the bars in the back and just sort of staring at a fixed point. But I also wouldn't be comforting or helping anyone. I would just be like, I would be imploding in on myself out of terror. But I would not be one of the guys going, it's going to be okay, or like comforting the kids. I would just be like, this is not happening, wake up. That would be my reaction. Completely unhelpful.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Don't get hijacked with me. I'm not good. I'm not a good hijacking. All right, guys, thank you. Wow. It was, man, I love getting to watch this with people. So thank you guys so much. I'll be at Young Adult Thursday. Tomorrow they're showing Life Itself, the Roger Ebert documentary. There's so many good films. If you haven't seen Short Term 12, I think they're screening that Thursday at 4 somewhere. Go see that. It's incredible. Highly recommended, along with look, everything they pick is great. So, again, thank you for coming out a night early with me. I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thank you.